In the vast expanse of the African bush, a British conservationist flying solo crashes his ultralight plane. Severely injured and carrying no food or water in the wilds of Africa, his chances of survival are slim. His best friend desperately searches for him, knowing he may never find him. Staying alive takes all the cunning and guts one man can summon up. Zimbabwe, Africa, home to some of the most varied animal life in the world, much of it under threat from poachers and encroaching civilization. Greg Rasmussen was born in England but came to Africa as a young boy. For the past 12 years, he's dedicated himself to saving a rare species of African dog on the brink of extinction.
I've always been passionate about wildlife from day one. I mean, even as a child, I love the bush, I love Africa. It holds an endless fascination. I mean, it's always changing, and there's just so much to learn. It's like a book that just never ends.
Greg is one of the few pilots in the area, and even though he's busy with his own project, he's agreed to help a fellow conservationist search for a lost rhino.
People very concerned about the rhino, and National Park said, would I assist? And I said, of course I will. If wildlife needs help, I'll help.
Greg's a capable pilot, but flying a plane and tracking animals requires intense concentration, and he'll be flying over unfamiliar terrain.
And I was aware of that, I was fully aware of that, but we had rhinos that needed locating. There were poachers out there. I mean, you can't turn your back. I can't turn my back on things like that.
An ultralight plane is a cheap and efficient way to cover the African bush, but is also very dangerous to fly under certain weather conditions.
Temperatures in the day can be very, very hot. Tricky flying conditions for a light aircraft. Because, you know, it's hot, the air's thin. So it's quite hard keeping the plane up in the air. This was a very harsh, dry, rocky, rugged area. I'd never flown that area before, and I realized I was in a completely different territory.
The rhino is electronically tagged, and in no time, Greg's tracking device picks it up.
I just found it. I hadn't actually seen it, but I realized that it was alive by this movement signal. And I was just starting to circle out. And as I turned the plane, suddenly I went into something known as a wing storm. Literally, one wing's flying and one wing isn't. Suddenly I had this gut-wrenching feeling. I put full power on the rudder. Pulling back on the stick, I was doing the right thing, and it wasn't working. And the plane started to go down in a spiral. And the ground was coming up pretty damn fast. And then there's a split second. You know you've passed the point of any return. I almost didn't want to open my eyes. I didn't know what I was going to see, what I was going to feel, what I was going to find. I was totally dazed, stunned. And I was like, I'm alive. I'm alive. And at that second, petrol started dripping over me. And I just pulled myself out, literally almost fell out of the plane. As the petrol started to come down, I had these visions of this wall of fire. And I could just see myself being incinerated alive. And I knew my legs were doing nothing. I couldn't do anything with the legs at all. But I just had to get away from this plane. I mean, this thing was a nightmare now. And then I suddenly thought, Mayday. I've got to call Mayday. And I didn't want to go back to that plane. I didn't want to go near it. But I had to brave it, because I knew that that was my only means of survival. And I knew the quicker I got a message out, the better.
Greg has to try and make a call. No one knows exactly where he is or that he has crashed. He has no survival gear with him, no food, no water, and he's severely injured.
Mayday! Mayday! And the whole handset was hot. The crash had short-circuited all the batteries and had literally fried my only means of survival, the emergency radio. And then something happened that literally just changed almost everything. The pain hit, because the adrenaline had worn off.
On the outside of his body, Greg has only a few superficial scrapes, but inside he is bleeding badly, and his legs are broken in 6 different places.
That was a pain that I'd never experienced before. Anything like it, anything that even came close to it. My legs felt like they were going to explode from within. My feet were just doing this. My legs were just one big lump of jelly. And I realized I had to stay in control. You know, I had to be in control of the situation, because if you lose control, that's it. I was going to be a goner. I started to try and take stock of the situation. And it was quite a harsh reality. I suddenly realized there was no 999. There was, you know, if I was going to get out of this, it was only going to be me and me alone.
Greg is over 70 miles away from the nearest road. By the time anyone realizes he's in trouble, it may be too late. The brutal heat of the African sun will bake him alive. If he survives that, he will face worse horrors. As night approaches and hungry predators come out to feed. Unable to move, Greg is easy meat. But right now the pain from his smashed legs is all he can think of.
There was this pain in my ankles. They felt like they were going to explode, because I'd got these boots on. Yeah, and of course there was no space for the swelling to go. There was no way I could even get anywhere near my shoelaces. But I was thinking, if I don't get those boots off, there's going to be gangrene, and I'm going to lose my feet. I lose my legs. I managed to look back, and I thought, well, maybe if I can drag myself to this tree, I can tilt my body forward so that I can maybe get to my shoelaces somehow. I wanted to stop that pain. Because, I mean, it was like my foot was exploding.